Our speaker is Dr. Pei, the Tom and Margot Pritzker 72 Professor of Government and the George R. Roberts Fellow at Claremont McKenna College. Dr. Pei has published extensively on topics within his area of expertise, including China-U.S. relations and Pacific Rim, comparative politics. And that also includes 3 books. One, which was recently published, China's Crony Capitalism, the Dynamics of Regime Decay. Also, he wrote Reform to Revolution, the Demise of Communism in China and the Soviet Union, and China's Trapped Transition, the Limits of Developmental Autocracy. He also serves as a frequent commentator whose perspective has been found on the BBC World News, NPR, New York Times, Washington Post, and the International Herald Tribune and other major outlets. Dr. Pei is a recipient of numerous prestigious fellowships, including the Edward Teller National Fellowship at the Hoover Institute at Stanford University, the McKenna Fellowship at the World Bank, and the Olin Faculty Fellowship of the Olin Foundation. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Pei. Also keep tweeting and Elon Musk is listening. Let's joke the first time. Doctor, thank you. Great to have you.
You know, we've got a couple of questions that we were thinking of. Obviously, one of them revolves around the Congress, the Chinese Congress that just occurred.
Yes.
And the internal workings of the Chinese government.
Yes.
Now, there have been some changes in the leadership of China. How is that going to reflect internally in China, and how is that going to reflect externally in U.S. China relations?
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank the club for having me back. Last time I visited was 2018. It's like a different era. But in response to your question is that about, let's say, 2 weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, the Communist Party of China, which rules the country, held its 20th Party Congress. By all measurements, it's a historic Congress because it broke a lot of rules. And what we should be concerned about why this Congress matters. It matters in many ways. First of all, it allowed the current Chinese leader Xi Jinping to serve another term, and a lot of us meaning analysts of Chinese politics, believe that he's going to stay on for at least 2 more terms, which means that his policy will continue. And that concerns all of us, because in the last 10 years, he's pursued a set of policies that were completely contrary to the policies that allow China to become prosperous and cooperative partner of the West and the U.S. But in the last 10 years, those policies were abandoned in favor of a set of policies that contributed to a rapid deterioration of U.S.-China relations. They also increased human rights violations. Of course, that's very serious. Shifted the economy away from markets towards state control. So when you're able to compare China's economic performance over the last 10 years, it just can't compare with the previous 30 years. So we probably obtained a positive record. What it is that he's not done. 5 years, if we're lucky, 10 years, if we're not lucky, 15 years, if we're disastrous, unlucky. So that's why I think we are all very, very, that's something that is not such a stellar gets to stay. In terms of U.S.-China relations, I think he's being convinced that China now is powerful enough for the U.S. to pay some respect. to view China as an equal, as a peer. And because that has not happened, he believes that he needs to work harder, to push harder for that to happen. Of course, that policy is quite confrontational, assertive, if you want to use a more polite word. And that makes it very hard for the U.S. to shift this policy. In the last 10 years, especially in the last 5 years, U.S. policy has shifted very dramatically from so-called engagement with China, which is high-level political dialogue, economic trade, investment, and then global cooperation, to the U.S. policy shifted from engagement to competition. Competition is actually a very polite word. Yes. It's really sort of confrontation, containment, if you will. So, because the Congress has cemented its leadership for another decade at least, so you have to look ahead and say, what are the possibilities of improvement of U.S. China relations? And also, internally for China, what are the possibilities of improvement of its economic policy? Because if you continue down this path of relying on the state rather than the private sector to sustain economic development, that's not going to happen. Consequences also the Chinese economy. It's the engine of growth for the last 3 decades. If China slows down some policies, these have some consequences.
That brings me a question, and obviously it's not in the cards, but if China is reverting back to a command economy, a very strong command economy, from a little bit of softening that happened just a decade ago, what does that do to the view or the policy of the United States for neoliberalism? Does it close in? Does our economy close in on itself?
It's a great question because how do you respond to your biggest trading partner? That is state control. China is going to revert 100% to command control. I think it's not as central. Things are command side. Shift, say 25%, 10%. They will be more towards their hand. Now, the challenge for the world is that how do you respond? Unfortunately, I think one response you see in the US, but also in Europe, is that if we shift toward more state, we want to shift toward more state as well, which is really very puzzling. Because right now, the overall explanation is that it gives us more security. Yeah, but I know security is insurance. You can always overpay for insurance, right? Why to insure life for $1 million? That's a lot of money. Of course, I feel a lot of security. That's very rational. So I think it's to me a really honest debate. If the adversary is doing something very harmful to himself, are you going to follow his example and shooting yourself in the foot? So that is one thing. I think the other thing is that if you see China doing this, from Chinese technology adversary. If he's strong, we're going to make him stronger. So far, sounds very attractive. Let's think about it. The citizens definitely don't want to trade China with high technology, food trade, trade fruits. So those things. But I think it's in the policy circle, not just in the US, there are fracturing structural supply chains as if things don't have costs. Seems like enormous costs because it's fragmented global economy. So I think so the Chinese unfortunately the set of responses are quite costly over the long run. From China. From China. That's pretty I think if from Russia. Yes, nobody knows. Just supply chain is very £6,000, 15 whatever countries. And if you disrupt one, we're going to build alternatives. And that global supply chain has been was built in about 3 decades, roughly mid-1990s to about 5-7 years ago. So that is 20 years. So that to reverse that, you need at least 10-15 years. So I think it's not possible in the next 10 years, but it will be possible in about 15 years. But that's very, very enormous because today we're accustomed to buy, say, this TV, $600. Yeah. If you decouple from, if you want to have a really secure supply chain, that thing is going to cost you $1,000. So, just to give you an illustration, that is things that you. Yes. Let's jump into the geopolitics. Yes.
It's in a little bit of chaos. How does that affect the relationship between the United States and China, the tension between Russia and the United States?
So, think about with a lot of discussion without regret. So many areas around stability and inflation. And of course, different change in the China relations and the current tensions, geopolitical tensions. So we have resources. In China, that tension has shocked mostly the global supply chain and trading patterns because China is the world's largest trading nation, bigger than the U.S. in terms of total amount of trade. We have, and of course, China and the U.S. collectively account for about 40% of GDP. So when you have 40% of the world's economy, the two countries accounting for much of global output, locked in a geopolitical struggle. It affects not just their bilateral trade, which is a lot. We're talking about 700 billion. That's a lot. But you're also, because of globalization, you're also affecting the trading patterns. And so collectively, that shock is now reverberating in corporate boardrooms. They're talking about what are we going to do? Because after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, what happened is that there's this wave of massive sanctions on Russia, and the companies, corporate leaders look at China and say, well, Russia's nothing. China's foreign trade is about $5 to $6 trillion. And that affects everybody. So what should we do? So I think this geopolitical tensions that has to do with the globalization economies because of geopolitical reasons. Structure needs to change.
I'm a dumb engineer, so a very simple question.
Yes.
What is China trying to accomplish? What's the question? What are you trying to accomplish by closing in the borders, basically?
Yes.
Becoming a more on-demand economy.
Yes.
What are you trying to accomplish? Is there an end goal?
Okay. Well, I think to say China will try to accomplish, I think besides to say what does Chinese leadership, besides Xi Jinping himself trying to accomplish, because frankly, I think the Chinese people want to things that are very different from the especially Xi Jinping himself. So he was just trying to defy China's President or Communist Party chief tries to accomplish. I think he's trying to accomplish three things. He wants to show that the Communist Party strengthens holding power about how market reforms, because economic wealth and the freedom created by market economy inevitably loses the Communist Party's control. Now you have more access to information, you can have the money to travel, the party cannot control you. So this is one. The other thing he's very worried about is that over time, the party will lose control of the economy. By his reverting back to a much more state-centered economic model. Let me just give you one simple example. 1979. This is the year when China opened up. When China launched its economic reform, the state sector, that is the state government, controlled 80% of the GDP. So 80% of the economy was under state control. Today, there's just no process. It's to 60%. Right? NBC. It can only companies the party direct controls through the state. So he wants to reverse that and so internationally. He thinks that China has always wait. Before Xi Jinping came on, before 2012, China's foreign policy strategy was something called hide and bide, which is you hide your strengths. Even though you are heavyweight, you behave like a featherweight, like some medium weight, but you don't have some sort of weight around. You try to be non-threatening. And it's not that China will never throw its weight around. You just wait until you are truly powerful. Xi Jinping believes that that strategy did not serve China well. So after he came to power, he began to demand equal treatment with the U.S. is that we need a new great power relationship. If you pass it, it's really means that you have to treat us as equal. And then he began to do things that were clearly very aggressive. The best example, the worst example is the South China Sea.
Yes.
This is a vast area where legitimate ownership of disputed territory is really settled. China had about 5 or 6 local features. Semi-submerged. So they build artificial islands, utilized to change facts on the sea. And is that
So he's changing the territorial water.
basically changing it? His main claims, he's changing facts on the ground so that he believes that he can strengthen China's claims. It's a legal crazy. International law does not allow or does not forbid. So he's taking advantage of this legal loophole, but geopolitically, people don't care that much about legal things. They care about the practical impact. Because if China is allowed to use its power to seize control of this vital piece of ocean, then it has all kinds of consequences. You have implications about freedom of navigation. What if China declares a vast body of water its own territory and try to use its military commercial shipping? China's neighbors are small countries. So they cannot push back to uphold international law. So it becomes changed how the U.S. sees China. It's China for 40 years. So first, the experience is that strong international rules and norms shows that that's not the case.
It also appears that China doesn't only have a regional strategy, it has a global strategy because it seems to be projecting more and more, not military power, but wealth into developing countries like Latin America, like countries in Africa. It seems to be more traction in those two areas.
Yes. This is that there's two sides to this story. One side is, I would say, quite legitimate because once you are the world's second largest economies, 18 trillion, whatever. China's problem is that it is a very resource poor country. Most of its resources have to be imported. So how do you secure your access to resources, especially if you don't trust the market? So you have some great position. If you look at economies, self-sufficient in terms of resources. China is not. China is to steel. China imports 65% to 70% of its oil. That's basically energy sufficient. So this because of its Chinese resources that swing securing resources is to on the ground, so to speak. Well, in real ways, so that those countries are very close to you economically, and then that will secure the resources. So this is sort of legitimate. I think a lot of countries will do that. Of course, then you have to look at whether those deals are done in a way that is fair, that is transparent, that does not involve a lot of corruption. The latter case, China's deals are not known as the most transparent and some corruption-free cases. The other thing is much more anxious. That's the so-called Belt and Road Initiative. China somehow believes that a lot of political traction, just economic benefits, influence. There are examples of those infrastructure product that's so we have. So China issues enhance competitive advantage. To some extent, it's true because China's focus on development globally in terms of those projects. China has CPUs, 36 inside China, so those projects. The other thing I think is in their favor is that China was largely missing action. The West was not doing any of these things for good reason, because these things are very costly. If you lose money on infrastructure, these are very risky projects. And developing countries, it will be very hard to justify returns. When you're on the airport, you know how difficult to turn a greenfield infrastructure project into productive assets. China thinks that that's before the recent economic downturn in China, that this kind of economic, geopolitical investments will expand China's influence. So far, it has not panned out because there's a reason the markets don't like greenfield infrastructure projects in other countries.
So they're basically serving as the International Monetary Fund of China.
Yes, I think it's to some extent it's because I don't know I like China because this is China I just
Ask an obvious question, and to me it's obvious. The condemnation of, I'm going back to Ukraine. China is one of the major players abstains.
Yes,
It doesn't or a bad thing. But why they abstain. One of the reasons they abstained from it.
well, so because China and Russia are now strategically aligned, to see that they arrived, it was an understatement. It's understood. It's a strategic interest. First, to a coalition, pressure. It shows the US as the greatest threat. So, sure, in this case, I cannot tell Xi Jinping about his plans to stay with him, because if China is in this stage, China will choose it so that its attention on China. So, China sometime. So this while we are on some has done. China on the spot. China was one of the most champions in international politics of state sovereignty and integrity. It's almost strategic. So China's lost a lot of credibility. So that is China's lost. China is paying a pretty price for the price. strategic competition. There's the most things in China, a lot less things on China. Two distinct country and causes the greatest military conflict and humanitarian disaster since World War II. Europe is very upset. But China, you're actually supporting Putin. So Europe's relationship with China has deteriorated rapidly. And US now has a real chance of recruiting Europe as its ally in competing with China.
So would you say that we're kind of the fact that they're already?
It's because it's from aspects of U.S. China relations that first of all, countries are for if you ask that's really think about. If you go to China and ask the Chinese military, just really think about. And it's not a situation I think people in China or the US want to be in. The two countries are thinking about war. Yes. So this is where. So second, I think technological exchange. Has been successful administration to build strong engagement in Europe on the side, and of course UK. China got Russia and probably Iran, those states. Will have a vast number of countries that really don't want to have anything to do with this because they don't see upsides. They see all downsides. So that resembles. But then we look at other aspects. First, people-to-people cultural ties. Yes, in China still maintain very robust ties. Then you look at commercial relationship. If you sort of get rid of forget the high end, the two countries still do about $600 billion, $700 million of trade. China still holds probably close to $1 trillion in U.S. assets. And it's not sort of Cold War type situation. So I would say that this is sort of Cold War light. And so I think we need to keep it that way. We don't want to turn into Cold War because nobody benefits. We'll live through the Cold War, and the world is not a pretty place.
Yeah. I think we have some questions, don't we? Okay, let's intermix some of the questions in here. Bob, it's an incredible honor to have you here.
Oh, thank you. This is my questions.
What's it you understand about China's fixation on Taiwan? If it's
subject. I want to focus on sort of for Taiwanese and for Chinese. I can say it's the contested narrative. People in Taiwan have their own history, and people in China have their own history. That is, the Taiwanese perspective is that Taiwan was originally inhabited by Aboriginals, now they constitute about 1%, 2% of the population. And most of its people immigrated from China roughly about 4 centuries ago. Mm-hmm. Taiwan was a colony of the Dutch. It did not become a Chinese province until the end of the 19th century. And then shortly after the Japanese defeated China in Big War and annexed Taiwan. So Taiwan's connections with China were tenuous. Of course, we can look back at several centuries. So Taiwan's in one way actually evolved that identity. And then after World War II, China got Taiwan back from Japan. So it became part of the Republic of China. Then the Republic of China descended into civil war. And the government, Chiang Kai-shek was defeated, and he took a million people to Taiwan, 1949. And then he has protected it. So China, the Chinese side was that the civil war never ended. They never took back Taiwan. It was part of the Chinese territory that was occupied by a defeated force and protected by the U.S. until 1979. And people in Taiwan don't think that way. So, that was a fight between the Chinese. It had nothing to do with the majority of the people living on Taiwan. And today, we're a democracy, we're a free economy, we're a high-tech economy, we want to have our own, we want to chart our own destiny. And on top of that, China is not really a country you want to have as your sort of a part of your motherland, because the government is very repressive. Of course, the economy is much poorer than Taiwan, and you're going to lose your freedom, you're going to lose your rights, not just because of your unique identity. So it's why you have two very conflicting views. But in China, is that they feel that because the real thing in China is very different. Is that it is a bloody road that reminds China of its weakness, because Taiwan was split when China was very weak, and it can be a tool for a foreign power to use against China. Now the US fits the bill, so that's why it's a very emotional issue. But when you look at practicality, that except for security, China don't need Taiwan at all, because the two sides do hundreds of billions of trade, and totally not going to make China rich. And the following of the reunification will not China to tax Taiwan. I think the only issue is that if you look at the map of China, China is basically a continental country. Its access to open ocean is blocked by the so-called first island chain. To the north, Korea, Japan. To the south, the Philippines. And then to the east, Taiwan. Is that as long as Taiwan is not part of the Chinese security system, then China will not have the easy access to open ocean. So that is the only reason.
An adjunct to that question is, and I recall the Argentine sort of point of view, how are the Chinese people in mainland China from Taiwan?
Well, we don't have reliable reports because it's very hard to do reliable reporting in China on sensitive issues such as Taiwan. And of course, you have to frame your questions very carefully. But because of the Chinese Communist Party's official narrative, the majority of the Chinese people genuinely believe that Taiwan is theirs. And they get very upset if Taiwan is going to split, finally split. effectively has been split from China for more than 70 years, because 49 was the, but to ask an average Chinese, would you accept Taiwan being an independent country? Probably most of them will say no.
Okay. Has the Belt and Road Initiative made China too big to fail for the global economy?
I think Belt and Road Initiative, it's very opaque. We don't really know how much money the Chinese government has spent. The ballpark figure is about $1 trillion in soft loans. Mm-hmm. That is concessional loans, or mostly project-backed loans. The global economy is a $90 trillion economy, so it's not going to have such huge impact. And of course, you have to assume that most of the projects are duds. We don't know the percentage of the projects that are failures. Probably, well, if you think that half of them, at least $500 billion. So it means that can the Chinese banking system take a hit of $500 billion? It's actually not China's biggest problem. If the Chinese banking system is to go down as a result of the world, that means too big to fail, because the Chinese banking system is gigantic. It's bigger than the U.S. banking system, because China has QE infinity, just minimum monetary policy for many, many years. The real issue for the Chinese banking system is actually its real estate, much, much bigger than the Belt and Road. Because that's, I don't even know how many trillions of dollars of bad debts. I can sort of speculate some magnitude bigger.
Question that is on graphics. There has been a conversation on China's one-child policy and population change in China. How does that affect the economy? Or does that affect the China's becoming more
huge? There are several factors going forward that will make the Chinese economy grow a lot slower. China has had, before 2012, the Chinese economy grew at double digit for 3 decades. And that was truly miraculous. And one of the reasons was China's young population. It's the age of the Chinese population was around 24. Today it is 37. So we're talking about relatively healthy, sort of for a labor force to engage in low-end manufacturing, the Chinese workforce was fine. So it was so cheap. Today, because of the demographics, China's labor cost is higher than Mexico. So if you are no longer competitive in terms of labor cost, then few people will come and make stuff in the country, and then you're going to grow much less fast. The other is aging, of course. Now, the Chinese population, you have a much larger percentage of your population that is 60 and older. I think China now is about 15%. That's a lot, right? Because these people have to be supported with lots of tax revenues. And so we're seeing is China also as isolated force such environment because much better very close to each other's so this is one of the pushing policy. So China, regardless of government policy, the China policy has made the shape much worse because without China policy, probably the Chinese population will be 200 million more, but the shape is much better. So look at this dramatic sort of reduction in this particular age group. Another problem is that once you get trapped in this low birth rate situation, it's very hard to reverse. No country has ever succeeded in using prenatal policies to increase birth rate. France may have done it to others, but so much of
The Japanese paradigm.
Yes. So right now, for simple U.S China competition, this decade, that means it's roughly the same as China's. By the end of this decade, it's the other country than China.
There's a couple of questions here which are fascinating. It's most fascinating to see Western China finding its hunger. How will agriculture fare? I think we're already seeing it in Ukraine, but
I think in the U.S.-China competition will not directly affect the food security. It will indirectly affect food security through the mechanism of climate change. Because China is a food importer. The U.S. is a food producer. So what will happen is that China's demand will have to be met, if not by U.S. producers, but people in Argentina, Brazil, maybe Canada. But it's actually suffering will have a huge impact on global food production. And perhaps if China decides to produce its own food, so it's a disaster, I think, with the U.S. climate cooperation. China's system is like 7% of total population. China is catching very fast. So to persuade the other countries to fight climate change is a cost effective. It has a possibility. Of course, compensation first term, two most important economies cooperate. The other controls China, some say.
does the China leadership, does that play into strategy?
It's a very good question. I think China has very few cards. This is in across the board a very strong position. So China uses climate change as one of its few cards. So it is telling us if you pressure us very aggressively, we will cooperate with you on climate change. So yesterday, Biden and Xi Jinping met in Bali. They appear to have a pretty good conversation. So one of the things they agreed on was to resume climate dialogue. We're not talking about cooperation. So that is, and I think fairly, to be fair, I think both sides need to work. One area they can really make a difference is to try to cooperate so that clean technology, the cost of clean technology comes down dramatically. Because this is, I think, where it's likely to be a win-win situation. right? But so far we've not seen any sort of a sign that they're going to go in that direction.
Well, we have very little time left, and again, we really appreciate your time. But one last, actually, is, are we looking better in 5 years? Is our cooperation stronger with China? Do we put all these things behind us? Obviously, understanding that, in 5 years, something that actually helps humanity a little more better in 5 years. I think right after not only then finding stars. That is, these things will have to happen. I think the US internally will have to be a lot stronger, more unified. So the US shows to the world that we are in a position to lead. Can we say this about the US today? I think we can't, frankly, right? So this, I think, so the US will have to be a lot stronger, especially politically. Then I think China will have to recognize that it's not going to win. So the real question is how can it cut its losses, right? Because a set of policies at home abroad, some policies, policies wrong. So I think the internal Chinese leadership will have to come to a basic conclusion. So policies now, externally, is going to get off. And the citizens, the rest of the world, we have to speak up. As I said, 5% GDP, which is essential of climate change, it's still gigantic state of the conflict. So it's calamitous, right? So we have to play a moderating role. I think in. So each side just from mom to me, but not necessarily a completely hostile relationship. So I think it's extremely process of chat with I would rely on you or something that would turn on it. Well, I say thank you very much. Well, like I said, today's presentation was available on the invitation on Thursday, November 15th.
As we welcome David Johnson, the President and CEO of the Central Indiana Corporate Partnership, who will be sharing insights on his decade of successful leadership at CICP here in this room. Be sure to purchase your tickets to join us for the conversation, and also again use Twitter. Like I said before, if Elon Musk is listening, I really apologize. Have a nice day now. Thank you very much.